I've been making Minecraft videos on YouTube now for about 6 years, and I've been playing Minecraft for far longer than that. And one thing that I've always been asked down in the comment section, even in the early days of my YouTube channel, is how do you come up with new ideas for videos? Surely by this point, you've run out of things to do. Now I must admit, sometimes it can be a little bit challenging, and there's been a number of times in the past where I've sat there for hours trying to come up with new ideas for either Redstone videos or Hermitcraft episodes, and nothing's come to mind. But I've never thought to myself that Minecraft is finished and there's nothing fresh to build. I always think that there's something new coming around the corner, you just need to think of it. And what I'm going to try and do in this video is explain to you my process of coming up with these new ideas in the hopes that you might be inspired to build something new yourself. Now my first and arguably most important suggestion is to play with new features that get introduced into Minecraft. As soon as new features come along, you need to think of how you can incorporate them inside your builds. For example, if we go right the way back to the very first snapshots of Minecraft 1.13, the first thing that I started messing around with is experimenting with the new water mechanics that are introduced into the game. The fact that items now float upwards as opposed to sinking to the bottom, so I started messing around with various different item elevators. Then I started messing around with different farms, and then building up aquariums, seeing how entities interacted with the water. Then I started messing with TNT inside the water. I just kind of went ham and saw what I could do with this new feature that was added, and it's always fun to play around with that stuff, because new items and new game mechanics mean new possibilities, and things that weren't previously possible suddenly become possible. The next thing that I'd suggest is that you kind of pick a broad category and then you go from there. So for example, I want to build a slime block flying machine. Now, do I want it to be a walking flying machine, or like a rolling flying machine, or do I want it to be an actual flying machine? I'd say probably a walking one. So do I want it to have 4 legs? Do I want to have 2 legs? I'd say probably 2 legs. So I want it to be robotic, as in like a mesh suit, or do I want it to imitate an animal? I'd say I want it to imitate an animal. What animal do I want? A type of dinosaur, I suppose. And let's go for the ultimate dinosaur, which of course is the T-Rex. And then we end up with something like this. A working, walking T-Rex. And you know what, while we're on the topic of the T-Rex, you should take inspiration from things that you see in real life that you're interested in. Now, I suppose, I haven't really seen too many T-Rexes in real life, but what I mean by that is that you can also take inspiration from things like movies, TV programs, books, comic books, just all the stuff that you pick up on, try and recreate in Minecraft. Now, the thing that makes this really entertaining is the fact that often when you recreate things in Minecraft, you kind of have to put a bit of a twist on them. For example, a couple months ago, the World Cup was going on, so there was plenty of football around me, and I thought it would be fun to kind of get into the spirit of things by building a penalty shootout minigame. But the issue is that there's no goalkeepers in Minecraft, and there certainly aren't any footballs, so instead, I actually had to use chickens. Now all we have to do is grab one of those and shoot towards the goal, and yeah, the little bat, there's a bat controlling this thing, he actually saved it. How's he managed that? Yeah, I think it's safe to say that I was never particularly good at sports. I think I'm going to be sticking to Minecraft for the time being. And the next suggestion that I have for coming up with new ideas in this game is to build all of your ideas in one place. Now that's if you're building redstone builds, or if you're just doing pretty builds, things like castles and houses and things like that. I'd suggest having one world that you work in. Now the reason for this is that you surround yourselves with potential inspiration. So for example, if I'm struggling with redstone builds, I'll kind of fly around in my redstone testing world and I'll just look at things that I've done in the past, and maybe it will spark up some form of idea. So if I just, okay, this looks pretty interesting. I think I've got a good idea as to what this does, but let's just test it out. Okay, so that pops up some slabs and then they drop down. So we've got a staircase here that also transforms into a mini hidden staircase down there. So then I think to myself, all right, this is a cool concept. I like it. I wonder what I can do with it. Maybe I can convert that to stairs, or potentially I could make it wider, maybe taller, because you bang your head on the way down. There's plenty of things that can come from this. Whereas there's not so much that can come from scrolling through this list here. I mean, you see things like Melon and Pumpkin Farm, but you have to click on each one. If you put all of your individual builds inside individual saves, you're never going to see most of them. Oh, and if there's one thing that's even better than working on a testing world on your own, is to work in a testing world with a bunch of other people. Join a plot world, get yourself a plot, and start building. You can ask people questions, you can get help immediately, you can either go to other people's plots to check out what they're working on, and you can just get tons of inspiration all over the place. They're absolutely fantastic. The only issue is that whenever I join one, obviously I get surrounded by people who want to watch me build redstone, and then the pressure gets to me and I can't build anything. You know, you guys know what I'm like. I'm terrible at building life. This is going to sound ridiculous, but ask people. Ask people for things that they might want to see you build, whether it be your friends or people that you play with on your Minecraft server, or just random people on the internet. For example, my I Build Your City Redstone Ideas videos are some of my most popular redstone videos on my channel, and as you can see, I get all of the ideas from Twitter. And there are hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of them. I mean, seriously, look at all these. And they're all totally ridiculous, and I absolutely love them. Building a survival mode is definitely one of the best ways to get ideas for building things in creative mode. Now that might sound counterintuitive, but it's because it's kind of forced by a need. In creative mode, you can do whatever you really want. You have nothing that you actually have to have. Nothing is necessary. Whereas in survival mode, you have to have a storage system. You have to have somewhere to put all of your items. You have to have a place to stay. The chances are you're going to have a decent number of farms to gather up resources. So you're going to have to build things around that. You're going to have to work around that. So you're going to have to come up with some ideas of things to build. For example, this gigantic structure that you can see right here, this is for my storage system. So along each one of these lines here, we're going to have all of the chests and then all of the hoppers and the sorting system and everything like that. And all of the items are going to be sorted. And then I thought I'd decorate it by having some biomes floating up at the top here. Obviously, it's unfinished, and at the minute, the underside is completely unlit and incredibly dangerous. It's definitely a work in progress, but none of this stuff would have come to my head if I was just sitting there trying to think of things to do in creative mode, that's for sure. From the redstone side of things, don't just build a redstone contraption, build an entire redstone build. And I'm assuming when it comes to the building side of things, don't just build one house, try your best to build an entire town. That way you have to come up with new ways to piece things together, and maybe you might come up with totally different concepts. For example, back to the redstone side, this is a build that my girlfriend Vicky created, and I decided I was going to transform it with redstone. Now, there's tons of things going on the inside of here, but there's a few creative bits and pieces. For example, this button here activates the filming setup. So when I film videos in my studio, real life videos, we move the sofa out the way, we get the camera set up on a tripod, and I put the chair over here, and all of that gets switched out at the press of a button. Now, if I didn't have this build to work from, I would never come up with this redstone idea. It would just never come into my head, but because of the space that we have here, it came to my brain, and then we built it. I had a new thing to work on. The same thing goes with the self-cleaning kitchen. Yeah, so that drops down, cleans everything off the sides, and then pops back up. I want one of those in my real house. Which brings me on to arguably one of the most important points of today's video, which is don't be afraid to be silly, and don't be afraid to goof around and build things that are totally and utterly pointless. I understand that in Minecraft, you don't get a dirty side on your kitchen, okay? In real life, especially my kitchen, it gets filthy on the top here. That doesn't happen much. We don't have to worry about that sort of thing. And I'm well aware that this tripod and camera setup that we have here is literally just a piece of black concrete on top of a glass pane. But it's just fun to goof around and come up with these silly concepts. That's what keeps things interesting. It doesn't have to be serious all the time. As you know, I've made a lot of videos. I've made a decent number of redstone videos. I've also made a decent number of Hermitcraft episodes. And there's a decent number of YouTubers, and they've all probably made a decent number of videos as well. So if you're stuck for ideas, just pop onto YouTube, and there's going to be plenty of cool ones and plenty of inspiration that you can take from those to build your own things. Now, just want to make it very clear, I'm not saying, okay, when I say this, I'm not saying that you can steal my redstone ideas and upload them to YouTube, passing them off as your own, okay? So if I see someone release an aquarium door that has exactly the same redstone wiring as mine, that's not so good. But if you want to go away, create your own aquarium door that's much bigger and much better, or perhaps it's compact, it works in survival mode, then go ahead. I'd love to see it. That sort of thing's awesome. Also, we're getting very close to 2.5 million subscribers here. Anyway, aside from me having almost a quarter of 10 million subscribers, totally ridiculous, I have one more technique to share with you. And that is to stare blankly at a white wall for many hours, trying to come up with new things. It sounds boring. It is a tiny bit boring. I probably do it about 3 or 4 times a week. I have to say though, it has a good success rate. it tends to work. So there we go. I think that just about covers it. Hopefully you can now go off and build a whole bunch of new things in Minecraft. But anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button. And if you really loved it, then make sure to subscribe. But thanks for watching, guys. This has been Mumbo, and I'm out. I'll see you later. Oh, I'm filming channel stuff. You know what to do. Link will be on the end screen. Just go ahead.